So now I know I'm 100% being followed, chased, whatever it is. So at this point, I gun it. And my car is substantially faster than theirs. So I'm gone, right? And they're still making chase. They're still chasing. I can see them in the rearview mirror. They're chasing me. So what I'm doing, so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm being followed. I'm being chased. What do I do? I'm not at a point now where I can just roll down the window and start bucking shots out the window. It's not going to end well for me. This episode of the Colion Noir podcast is brought to you by Vetter Holsters. What's going on, folks? It's Colion Noir here with another episode of the Colion Noir podcast. This will be a solo edition. I rather like these solo editions. Granted, I'll be following this up with way more interviews and so forth and so on, and having a guest on here. But sometimes when I'm doing a lot of traveling, I've got way too much going on. I can't always get people coordinated to do all the stuff. You know how the podcasting thing goes. That said, today I wanted to kind of talk about the times, yes, plural, where people tried to carjack me. Now, I know, oh man, for the longest time, as long as I can remember, I've always been a car guy. You know, I have a whole car channel now, which I need to really start posting more on. I've always been a car person. It's always been my thing. Like since a kid, I remember playing with the Hot Wheels and stuff like that. And for me, cars were an escape, especially when I was younger. Because, you know, when you're younger, you know, you don't have a license. You can't drive anywhere. And so, you know, I had bikes, skateboards, stuff like that. But when I got my first car, the world opened up to me in a way that I never could imagine. But even beyond that, you know, I talk about how when I was younger, my mom's boyfriend at the time got me a Guinness Book of World Records book for my birthday. And I'm like, why did you give me this Guinness Book of World Records book? Like, what am I supposed to do with this shit? And I remember flipping through the pages and coming across the Ferrari, the Lamborghini Diablo, red Lamborghini Diablo. I think it was like on page 9141. I can't remember the page number, and I remember I just became so incredibly fascinated by it because at the time it was the fastest car in the world. And I was so fascinated by it. And that was like the ultimate catalyst for like my car enthusiasm. So I was a car guy way before I was a gun guy, way before. So my goals were always like very predominantly focused on like cars. Like I love them, but they were so prohibitively expensive. So everything was like, you know, for me, I'm like, I want to be able to get that car and that car one day and so forth and so on. And apparently my grandfather was the same way. My dad was a big car guy before he died. Like he was a huge car guy. When he was alive, he and I would talk about cars all the time. And so, and man, apparently my grandfather, when he was alive, he had like a ton of cars. So being a car guy is just kind of in my blood, honestly. So I don't, you know, growing up, you know, I think my very, very first car was a 92 Honda Accord. My very second car was, not the very second car. First car was a 92 Honda Accord. It was my mom's. She gave it to me after she got a new car. And so I decided, and so that car was interesting because it was a white 92 Accord coupe. And the seat was slammed all the way back, like it was broken. And I wasn't very, like right now I'm about 5'9". So I've become even though I'm not that tall, I've become accustomed to sitting with the seat further back than normal. Like when I'm actually sitting in a position for my size, for my actual height, it feels odd to me. It's kind of hard to explain. And I think it has a lot to do with when I was coming up and I was driving that Honda Accord with the seat slammed all the way back. So I kind of had to learn how to drive like that. Then the second car after that, like my very first like new own car was like a Honda. You see a theme here. It was a Honda Civic. I remember it was a Honda Civic. And All right, so I've got to give a quick shout out to Vetter Holsters. They're now sponsoring the podcast. I've been using their light tuck kydex inside the waistband holster, and what I really like is how adjustable it is. You can tweak the ride height and cant to get it exactly how you want. Plus, they've got holsters for over 450 gun models in 75 different colors, so you can pretty much find whatever you need. But here's the thing that really sets them apart: their customer service. I've heard so many stories about how they've gone above and beyond to make sure you're happy with your holster, and with a lifetime warranty and a 30-day money-back guarantee, it's clear they stand behind their products. If you're in the market for a great holster, check them out at betterholsters.com. I love that thing. It was a four-door. It was a four-door Honda Civic. Love that thing. Loved it. Many great experiences with that thing. And then I totaled it. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. Somebody hit me. I got total, so then I was in for a period of time, I was in a Nissan Galant, had a Nissan Galant. And then after that, I got, and this was kind of right before, like a little bit before I went to law school, I got a Infiniti G35 Coupe. Now, anybody who knows during that time period, it was like when they first came out. The Infiniti G35 Coupe was the shit. It was your quintessential. It wasn't what the G35 is now. Like the G35 now was like the takeover car where all these little young motherfuckers get in it and just wreak havoc on the city streets. The G35 back then was like, it was as close as you were gonna get to an exotic without paying anywhere near exotic money. And I remember it was a group of, it was pretty gay now that I think about it, but it was still, at the time, you couldn't tell us anything. It was all my friends. It was like 5 of us. We all had G35 coupes. Mine was black, of course. Then my other friend had a gray one. Other friend had a light blue one. Other friend had like a white one. And I remember I was like, because I wanted, like, my friend bought his and he had these Volks wheels on them. And they were, it made the car so beautiful. I think about it, like imagining it now, I see it, and it's just, they were just perfect. And so my black ones initially were stock. I had them stock for a little bit, and then I went ahead and decided to put some wheels on mine. And that was kind of back in the age where chrome was a big thing. You put chrome on your wheels. Like, let me turn this off before I get distracted. Turn this phone off. Look at my password. So at this point, you know, I had this gloss black G35 coupe with these 20-inch chrome wheels. Ugh. And at the time, I was doing some work with an attorney. I was kind of serving as a law clerk, and I was also kind of on the nightlife. I was kind of essentially more or less a promoter. And I remember, so I was doing the nightlife thing. So, you know, like during the day, school, and then some work at his office. And then at night, go and do the whole promotion gig, you know, at the nightclubs and whatnot. And this was like, you know, you did the, you know, passing out flyers, you got to work the door, all this other crap, right? So I was like the second man. He was the clearly top tier, but I was like under his underling for all intents and purposes. So sometimes I'd work the VIP line. Sometimes, you know, I'd kind of deal with like special guests. I'd go pick them up, things like that. And of course, because of this lifestyle, you know, you're coming home 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, so to speak. So, and this was before I wasn't even into guns at this point. And so I didn't even own a gun. And one night, I remember I'm leaving the club, you know, working the club. I'm an introvert, first of all. So for me, clubbing, I didn't club like most people. I clubbed a network, more or less. Like I did more networking working in the club than I think I've ever done anywhere else, because you see essentially everyone. And then the thing is, I was working with a club where the age range was a little bit older than me. It was a little bit older than the club that I would actually go to. So I'm dealing with young professionals and people who are kind of established themselves. So I'm networking like crazy. I'm meeting judges, businessmen, you name it. And so that's kind of what I did when I was there. So I wasn't really drinking like that. So for me, you know, I do that and then come home around like 3:30. And I remember one night driving back. So it was the club we were dealing with, the club we were promoting was in downtown. And I lived pretty much pretty much in the burbs. If anybody who knows Houston, it was downtown, but I was at the time living in Sugarland or in the Fort Bend area, and like right off of Highway 6 and Bissonnette. And once I say Bissonnette, anybody who knows Houston, Bissonnette. So I'm driving home, and I've always kind of had a naturally paranoid personality. And when I say paranoid, I don't mean like generally speaking paranoid, like I'm always paranoid, but more so along the lines of like I was always very cautious and being kind of cognizant of what's going on around me. And this night, and it wasn't something that was at the forefront of my conscious. It would happen on the subconscious level. And I think that's why I've always been really attuned to like the cheetah. Like the cheetah was always my favorite animal because the cheetah it's considered a big cat, but it's not really a big cat. It's fast as hell, but it's not very strong. So it has to rely on its essentially it has to rely on its intuition, its surroundings, and its speed to get out of situations. And so I kind of looked at myself in that manner a lot of ways. And like I said, remember, this was before I really started carrying a firearm. So I'm driving back down Bissonnette. And as I'm driving, I'm just cruising, right? And I'm not really thinking too much of it. But I remember there was this green Eclipse, Mitsubishi Eclipse. If I remember correctly, it was green. And this Eclipse, I noticed that it was kind of feigning being normal, if that makes any sense. It was driving in a way where it was trying not to give me the impression that they were following me, but giving me the impression that they're following me. Like they just weren't doing a good job at it, I guess is the best way to put it. So at this point, I'm like, man, what's going on here? Like, I'm kind of confused. I'm like, what's these deals? What's these guys' deals? Like, I'm noticing it's all happening in the back of my mind. Right now, I'm not thinking they're trying to carjack me, but I'm noticing it's weird because sometimes they'll be in front of me, then they'll be behind me, on the side of me, and it was just odd. Something just was off about it. So at this point, we're driving down Bissonnette, and I get to the light, and I'm sitting at the light. Remember, this is like 3:30 in the morning on Bissonnette in Houston. And I think I was crossing over Bel Air. I think I was on, Bissonnette and Bel Air run parallel. I can't remember, what was it, Sinai? Whatever. So I'm sitting because it was right there. I think it was Bissonnette and Sinai, right there by that Timmy Chan's. They have a Timmy Chan's there now, I think. So I'm sitting at the light, and then the light turns green. So I remember the light turning green, and I'm thinking to myself, also, where the hell did that Eclipse go? It just disappeared. Like I'm looking, light turns green. I start going, and all of a sudden, I start taking off, and then the car pulls from behind me, pulls up in front of me in the middle of the intersection, trying to cut me off. And I didn't think, I just reacted. So as soon as I'm already kind of driving, so I already have some momentum. And they, I guess, had pulled back and it sped up to cut me off. And when they tried to cut me off, I just instinctively yanked the wheel left, yanked it right. Car just sat and took it. God, I love that damn G35. The car just said, and just kind of skirt around them. And I guess they weren't expecting me to do that. So they overcorrected and spun the car out. And then I mashed the gas and I was gone. I was out of there. And that was it. That was it. Now, that was the first one. I have two more of these stories. And they get progressively worse. So that was that one. Now, nothing about that encounter surprised me because I understood. I was driving a relatively flashy car at 3 o'clock at night, at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I understood why they were probably following me, right? Or trying to do whatever it is they were trying to do. Now, at this point, so now fast forward a little bit. I'm still kind of doing the club thing. Still same G35 black with the. I'll try to see if I can find pictures of it. I'll have Peter post images, put it in here. Maybe not. So still have the same G35, and I remember one day I'm driving, and it was in the evening. I don't remember exactly where I was coming back from, but I was driving in the neighborhood, and I had already developed. So at this point, now we're fast forward. Now we're at gun guy Colion. Now I have guns. So I have the gun I carry. I think at the time I was carrying I think I had my Ruger SR40, and at this point, I'm driving home, and I'm not thinking much of it. I wasn't paying too much attention to what was going on around me, but I noticed. So as I pull into my neighborhood, I see this other car pull in to neighborhood 2, and I stupidly I pull in to my driveway of the home, and I remember I opened the garage. So as I pull in, I remember seeing in my rearview mirror this car pulling up pulling up right on the corner street of my curb where my house is. So like if I have to drive, this is the driveway, this is the street, they pull up right there. I remember looking back at it, and I'm like, I can see shadows, I can't see faces because the tent was too dark. But it's like four dudes in the car. And I remember snapping into this like really reactive mode, because I'm like, all right, no, what was I carrying? I was carrying a Glock 26. That's what I had on me. I had a Glock 26. So I remember I pulled into the garage, and I could not remember if the garage was locked or if the garage was open. And the thing is, I did not have the key to the garage, the interior door. So if I get out of the car and tried to open the door and it was locked, I've wasted valuable time, and now I'm stuck. So, because usually I would park if it was locked, like if my mom locked the door or whatever, I would come out and then use my key to get inside the house. So at this point, I'm in the car, I get out of the car, I see them, they pull up. This is happening a lot faster than I'm explaining it. I'm just trying to set things up. So I get out of the car, and I notice, so I see them, I get out of the car, and I notice that they're sitting there, and I see that fucking dome light. As soon as I saw that dome light, because I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I could either try to just go inside through the interior garage door, assuming it's open. I'm not sure that it's open. So I have to think. I already have the key in my hand for the front door. So I'm like, and I have my Glock 26 on me, but I'm like, this little gun with 4 of them. I remember I got an AK upstairs. I need to get to my AK, and I need to get there fast. So I said, screw the interior door. It may not be locked. It may be locked, but I know for certain if I get this key in the door, it's going to open and I can get in there. So boom, I sprint out of the garage. So I sprint out of the garage, slam the garage door. Basically, I slammed the garage. I slammed the garage door thing. Actually, no, wait, did I? No. That's not what I did. I sprinted out of the I sprinted out of the garage, went to the front door, stuck the key in there, opened the door, closed the door, locked it, ran upstairs to my room, grabbed my AK, and then looked out the window and was waiting just to see what they do. And I remember the doors all open, and I think something about me bolting like that kind of spooked them, because inevitably what they end up doing is they just closed the door and then drove off. So that was story number 2. That was now all of this. Those 2 last stories took place in Houston, and and I remember talking to Travis Haley about that second story, and I was telling him how my thought process. I'm thinking I have this small gun. There's 4 of those guys, and I figured it'd be better for me to get to my rifle, and instead of trying to possibly duke this out with my little Glock 26. And what Travis Haley told me was, he was like, true, but when you're in a car, those like a car is basic. That's why I learned the concept of basically a car is kind of like a rolling coffin when bullets are flying. And he's like, those 9mm rounds going through that car can cause a lot of damage. And you got to remember, this is when I didn't know that much about firearms and tactics and things of that nature. I was still kind of at the genesis of that. So I didn't know. I thought it was hard for bullets to go through cars and so forth and so on. And he's like, no, 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 no. You sitting in the car and those bullets are ripping through their car. It's a shit show. So he's like, you were better armed than you thought you were. And so fast forward now I am I'm trying to decide whether or not I say where I live, which city I live in. You can easily find it out. I'm just not trying to make it easier for people. But I'm just going to keep the city nameless. But I'm no longer living in Houston. So at this point, and I'm probably going to accidentally say it anyway. So now we fast forward to more recent times. Now, I think this happened about 2.5 years ago. About 2.5 years ago. So now I'm kind of like at the apex of my gun guy persona, so to speak. And I remember this was a Sunday. And I had went out with some friends. Went out with friends during the day. And we kind of went out, and then I came back like around 9 or something like that. And, excuse me. Came back around 9, and then went out again with another friend, and was out pretty late. Came back like around, say, it was probably about 2:30. Notice a theme here. So I come back around 2:30 to my place, and I'm like, you know what? I want some tacos. I want to get some tacos. I'm hungry. So I decide to get in my car to go get some tacos in an area. This hat looks crooked. So I decided to go get some tacos in an area that is not really that great. It's not bad. If I say the name of the area, people are gonna be like, "Are you serious? like you did that?" But I was hungry. I wasn't really thinking. So I think I had grabbed my HK USP 9. I call it, the get home gun. I did a video on that. I had that, and then I was carrying a gun on me, and I had the HK USP in the center console. So I was going to go get some tacos from this taco place, and that's maybe 3 or 4 blocks from where I was living at the time. So as I'm driving to go get these tacos, we pull in. There's the taco places on the corner, and so then there's like a little parking lot on the left, and there's like little alleys on the right. And so this is it's a 2-way. You can come down. So I make a left, come down the street, and I'm trying to find parking. I can't really find any parking. So I get to the end, and it's a half cul-de-sac. So the street comes down, and then it's like a cul-de-sac, but you can't turn left. You have to go right. But it's like a cul-de-sac shape. So I decided to make a 3-point turn to come back down to see if I can find some more parking again. So I do this 3-point turn, and I turn around, and I'm face to face with this gray Acura TL with completely blacked out tint. And my first thought was, who the hell blacks out an Acura? Like, there's certain cars you do that to. Like, my brain just went, and it wasn't like it was a souped up Acura. It was just a regular Acura, completely blacked out tint. I mean, murdered out. Couldn't see shit. Now, you couldn't see shit in mine either. So I can't see them, they can't see me. I don't know what it was, but I saw this car because I'm making that 3-point turn. They're at the stop sign, where the only thing they can do is go right. And something about it just spooked me. I couldn't pin it. It was probably the tint and the paper plate, but whatever. In the area, like I knew the area I was in, so I understood, I wouldn't be surprised if, something like this happened to a degree, right? Clearly, I brought 2 guns with me. So I'm sitting there, and I see, so the Acura makes a right and starts going down the street, but it's meandering. It's not really driving with any sense of purpose. It's just slow crawling. I see brake lights tapping on every once in a while, and I'm still sitting there in this half cul-de-sac looking at the car, and I'm like, something's up. And in my brain, I'm like, they're waiting to see where you go. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck these tacos. So I take off. Not like at a high rate of speed, but just normally. I go down, I'm like, I'm not looking for parking anymore. I'm just gonna get back. I'm just gonna head back home and order something in or something. So I get out, I go down the street and I make a right onto Main Street, literally Main Street. And as I make that right on the Main Street, I look in my rearview mirror and and what I noticed is that car has now made the block. So they had made the block. So I guess when I took off not took off, but when I drove off, they made the block. So at this point, they're one block down from me, but I'm noticing they're driving at a rather high rate of speed because I've already turned right. There's like 3 cars behind me and I can see them driving relatively fast for the road that we're on. But they don't get in my lane. I mean, they don't, like, there's a lane on my right that's empty, lane on my left that's empty, and I got like 2 or 3 cars behind me. And I'm in my rearview mirror, I'm watching, and I'm looking up and I'm like, okay, I'm about 55, 60% that maybe they're following me. Because as I'm driving now, I'm watching them hedge their lane. They're 3 cars back, but they're like hedging the lane almost as if to try to keep an eye on me. And I'm seeing this, so now my meter, these fools after me meter is bumping up to like 70% now. So I'm at the light and I say to myself, at this light, when it turns green, I'm the first one at the light. I say, when this thing turns green, I'm gonna give it a little bit more gas than normal. Now, the car I'm driving was pretty damn fast. And the light turns green. And when the light turns green, I give it some gas. Kind of floor it a little bit, go. And at this point, I'm watching in my rear view mirror, this car now has moved over to the right lane and now they're speeding up. So now I'm at 80. So I tell myself at this next light, when it turns green, I'm gonna make a left. And if they make a left, I'm gonna run the light. Now it's like 3:30 in the morning or something like that. So there's really no one out. So at this point, light turns green. I never really stop because by the time I get to the next light, it turns green. So I make that left. They make the left. I gun it. Run the red light. Then they run the red light. So now I know I'm 100% being followed, chased, whatever it is. So at this point, I gun it. And my car is substantially faster than theirs. So I'm gone, right? And they're still making chase. They're still chasing. I can see them in the rearview mirror. They're chasing me. So what I'm doing, so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm being followed. I'm being chased. What do I do? I'm not at a point now where I can just roll down the window and start bucking shots out the window. It's not going to end well for me. So at this point, I say, you know what? All right, I got to figure this out. I have a substantially faster car. I could get on the freeway, outrun them, double back, and get to my house. The problem with that, but then I'm thinking, okay, I could do that, but even though my car's substantially faster, their car's not slow. So that means that I would have to double the rate of speed to create enough gap or distance so that I can exit the freeway where they don't see me exit, make the U-turn, make the U-turn and burn back down before they can know where I'm going. And I'm like and I'd have to do that for a considerable amount of time to create that distance. That's just an accident waiting to happen. I'm not going to do that. And keep in mind, this is all happening in my head at like lightning speed. Like there's so much shit going on in my head. And so then at this point, I'm like, okay, I need to call it cops because I'm running red lights downtown. We're downtown. So I'm running red lights. I'm not stopping. And the problem that I'm running into also is I'm running red lights, crossing over, doubling back. Because I'm outrunning them so I could cross over, come back, and then park in my garage. The problem is I'm outrunning them too fast. So what's happening is I'm outrunning them, doubling back. They're just seeing me cross over and like, oh, and they make up the distance. So that happened like twice. So I'm like, okay, I got to make a decision here. So at this point, I'm also on the phone with dispatch. I called 911 and I said, all right, I'm being followed. And they're chasing me, actively chasing me right now. She's like, I will route you to nearest police station. Now, at the time, it never crossed my mind. I don't even know where the police station is. Like, I've seen it, and I've passed it. But In all my time being here, I never realized I don't remember how to get there. So she's like, I'll route you to the police station. And in my brain, I'm like, I don't have enough mental space to process this right now because I'm still actively being followed. And I don't know how aggressive they're really trying to be. I don't know if they're going to get within distance where they can shoot at me and start doing that. So I'm thinking to myself, nah. I was like, ma'am, I'm going to try something. And if it works, you won't hear from me. If it doesn't work, I'll call you back. And mainly my point of calling is like, I know in this city, they have flock cameras everywhere. So there's cameras watching me burn through these lights, light after light. So I just want to let it be known, for whatever reason, if they start to come looking for me, that's why I was doing this. I was being followed. I wanted to have a record of what was going on. So at this point, I say to myself, all right, here's what I need to do. I need to, and I know some of you are thinking, why not just have her route you to the police station? And the reason why was because they technically haven't done anything, but they've done enough for me to be worried. And at this point, I figured once I start going to the police station and realize where I was going, they'll just back off. And then what? The police aren't going to escort me home. And at that point, they would just wait for me to leave. Now, I could probably outwait them, but I didn't want to do all that. I just wanted to be home. And I didn't want them to possibly find me, like, follow me in a way where I didn't know they were following me and then find out exactly where I lived. Because right now they didn't know where I lived. I'm just driving around. I lived very close in the area, like a few blocks, but they didn't know that. But I was staying in the area because I was trying to figure out a way to lose them so that I could stay, get home and, be good. So at this point, I say to myself, all right, I need to let them close the gap, get committed to a turn so they can't make up the difference when I double back. So that's what I did. And at this point, I let them get in a little close. I make a right turn and I let them pass over the next street so they couldn't double back. So at that point, I turned. Soon as they started committing and they crossed that street, I gassed it. And I was able to gap them by like a block or two. So I gassed them by a block or two, doubled back into my neighborhood and pulled into my neighborhood and sat and waited. So the way that my neighborhood is situated, you have, I had the ability, I wanted to position myself where I had two ways to get out if they decided to follow me, because there's only two ways into the neighborhood. So I wanted to be able to position myself so that the moment I saw them, I could take off in the opposite direction. So that's how I positioned myself. And I wasn't sure if they saw me go into the neighborhood, so I wanted to wait. So that's what I did. So I waited and waited and waited. Well, I wasn't waiting for that long. We're talking maybe like 20, 30 seconds. And within that 30 seconds, I remember I had vision both ways. So I could see in the neighborhood, there's a gate with some brush hedges or whatever and I was at a distance where I could see out, but they couldn't see in because they were too close to the gate on that street. And I see their car flying by on the outside of the neighborhood. And so I'm like, oh shit, they don't know where I'm at because they just ran right past the neighborhood. And so at this point, I'm like, cool, they don't know where I'm at. So I quietly rolled the car in, opened the garage, pulled into the garage, and shut the garage. At this point, I'd say 20 seconds after I did that, I hear like 8 gunshots right outside my street. Now, my thought process is that once they lost me, they couldn't find me, so they probably were shooting in the air, shooting out the car just to, razzle me or scare me more. But at this point, I was in my house. They didn't know where I was. We're done. There's more to the story. Well, long story short, there was another incident about a month later where there was a car that followed me from another location and was waiting outside of this time they were in tandem with another car, but I picked up on it early and they were in tandem with each other. And I picked up on it early enough to kind of thwart it. And at that point, I realized I had to move. And so that's what I did. So I moved. So I'm no longer there at that location. But I say all that to say this. I understand what comes with, I'm a car guy. I'm always going to be a car guy. I'm a car guy. I'm a city guy. And so I know what comes with that. I understand there's a certain level of vigilance you have to have. Because people always tell me, like, why you live in the city? Move out of the city. Go move in the country somewhere and have a own gun range and land and stuff. Yeah, that sounds cool on paper, but I'll be miserable, bored out of my mind. I need to be this. I'm a city guy. I've always been that way. Now, at some point, I probably will get some land, build a big ass house, and build a range and shoot and shit. But that's not where I am right now. I don't. That's not me. But I also understand the decisions I'm making. I understand that there's a certain level of vigilance that has to be had whenever you're living in the city. And then especially if you're living in a city with cars that kind of draw attention. But I'm a car guy, so I'm not going to relegate myself to not partaking in a passion that I have for those reasons. So for those reasons is why I tend to be a little bit more paranoid, why I tend to be a bit overly aware of things going on. Because I know that in those type of situations, yeah, I have a gun, but my biggest asset is being aware. Situational awareness is king in that regard. So when I am driving cars that I know draw a certain attention and I am doing this at a certain time at night, I am ultra aware, ultra. And so I understand that and I accept it to a degree, right? But in my dealings and taking different courses and classes, I've learned from these courses. I remember I took a vehicle darkness course where with Travis Haley, where literally you learn how to shoot in and out of vehicles at night under low light. So it's not uncomfortable for me to run and shoot a gun in my car at night and understanding what a bullet's going to do when it comes inside of a car, because I've taken that course. I'm not telling you I'm an expert. I'm not telling you I'm a tactic expert in that regard, but it's not unfamiliar to me. So I as part of the reason why I take some of those courses, because I understand the life that I'm living right now in terms of being in a city. It's just a totally different dynamic. Out in the country, you don't have to worry about a lot of shit. Like if somebody's falling, it's blatantly obvious. Here, there's so much chaos and things going on, you're not going to notice it unless you're actually knowing what to look for. And I know this to be the case because I know I have people that I know who, by and large, kind of live in the country, and they drive trucks like the TRX, and they've gotten them stolen. And it's because they got them stolen when they come into the city, not understanding that people are actively stealing these trucks. That's a thing. They will jack you. They will steal it from you the moment you park it and leave. And they didn't know this because they're used to the dynamics of being in the country. And so your situational awareness is going to be totally different because you don't know what signs to read and what signs to look for. That said, it's just a part of kind of who I am at this point. So I just want to implore people that when it comes to being in your car, I've never felt more vulnerable than being chased while I was in my car. And I know it sounds weird to some people, but just because I know how easily bullets and rounds can go through vehicles. And it's not a good feeling. And it's like I almost want to be outside of the car, more so than in the car. But you know, like I said, I've taken different courses. My next step, honestly, now is I want to take a defensive driving, evasive maneuvering course. That's what I want to do. And I'm going to film it, and I'm going to bring you guys with me along with that, because I think that is really, really cool. And I think it's a skill set that I think a lot of people need to have, because you don't just need to have a nice car to be followed. Like, you can be followed for whatever reason. You may be a target and not even realize why you're a target. And when you think you're being nondescript, and in reality, you have a big ass target on your back. But what I want to do is to kind of tell that story. I hadn't really told that story before publicly, and maybe somebody could use that, learn something from it, or not learn anything from it, or get in the comment section and tell me everything that I did wrong. And what's interesting is that you don't realize how fast your brain starts moving when you're kind of in your fight or flight stage. Everything slows down, but everything speeds up. It's really interesting. And I've noticed that I'll get that massive dump of adrenaline, like I'll feel it in my body, heart's pounding out of control. And then eventually, and that's another thing that happened. There was a point when they were chasing me, and after the adrenaline kind of leveled off a little bit, because it's been going on long enough, them chasing me, where the adrenaline kind of leveled off a little bit, and I went from like heightened, slight panic, but like kind of fearful, to just rage, like just anger, like I'm minding my business, not bothering anybody, but yet these assholes want to mess with me. And it just enraged me in a way I hadn't felt before. Not in the sense of I wanted to seek them out and just mag dump into their car, but just a rage that just really made me feel like this is some bullshit. But it is what it is. And that's the life we live. And that's this is the world that we live in, right? This could happen anywhere. But definitely a learning experience for me. I don't think they know who I was. Like I said, I couldn't see them. They couldn't see me. Both of our cars were completely blacked out tinted. So there's that. That car's gone. I love that damn car. But yeah, so I just wanted to tell that story to you guys. Like I said, I use these solo podcasts as kind of like therapy sessions almost. And I rather enjoy it. And if you don't, I'm sorry. Watch it anyway. But so that was another episode of the Colion Noir podcast. I have some very interesting guests lined up for some subsequent episodes. So stay in tune with that. And love you guys.